everyone, thank you for taking the time in my recent poll on Instagram to decide if you wanted the leaving care and care children assumptions video as a vlog or as a blog. This is in association with my Encouragingly You blog, which you can find in my bio. So I asked all of you questions you may have for care leavers, looked after children, and around that big spectrum of what is a looked after child. So I'm going to get through the questions and hopefully I can answer some of the questions that you have and give you a bit of an insight as to what it is to be a looked after child. The first question is how do they cope with such lack of support? Personally, I feel that can be really varied for each individual because we all cope in different ways. Obviously there isn't much support out there and it really does depend on the young child or the young person's kind of team, if they have kind of a supportive network around them, what they feel that they can trust the people that are involved with their care, and also it just depends on their mental health, their mental well-being, but overall we cope, we get through. The next question is do you have a strict routine or was you free to do whatever you wanted? I did kind of have a routine. I was in 3 different placements overall. First placement we didn't really have a routine, it was kind of just you can do whatever you like, you always had someone with you. The second placement was strict in a sense of you couldn't do whatever you wanted, but you could. So we used to fill in weekly diaries, and within that weekly diary it'd have a 7-day spread and it would be broken down to morning, afternoon, evening. And from what we filled in, say if I said I want to go to the park at 10 AM on Wednesday morning, that would be facilitated at 10 AM Wednesday morning with a staff member. If we then decided that we didn't want to go to the park at 10 AM Wednesday or Sunday morning, then that couldn't really be changed if there wasn't staff available. Obviously we did have a home car, and the home car you could use as long as it wasn't needed for appointments or educational purposes. What happens when you get upset where you're comforted? It's kind of like just as if you were going to be comforted by a friend or even a parent. You do get comforted, you're not just left there to cry by yourself. Obviously they like to ask you why are you upset, why are you crying, or why are you distressed, and sometimes it's hard for the other person to understand exactly how you are feeling. The more insight you can give the person to kind of let them in, the better, and yes, you can comfort them. Is the fostering process the same as it is on Tracy Beaker? So for me, I was never in the fostering kind of process. Through what my friends have told me, no, it's nowhere near the same. And obviously I can answer it through the home situation that Tracy Beaker filmed, whereas my friends can answer it on the fostering process. So with the fostering process, they said no, it wasn't the same. For me, answering as the home that Tracy Beaker was shooted in, me personally, I've never lived with that many number of people. It's always been kind of 4 or 5 people. At one point it was only me in the whole home with 5 bedrooms and about 8 members of staff and 2 different lounges, and it was big. No, I've never lived with that many people, but the connection that all the children have, all the characters have, is very much the same. It is kind of, for me personally, it did feel like a very close-knit kind of family, and these are the people that are going to guide you and be with you. So in a sense of, yes, it is the same as it is on Tracy Beaker. Personally, I feel the environment can resemble a little bit. The system, however, on how it's worked, we don't feel it is the same. Does everyone get on? Yes. Obviously, at times, we're all gonna fall out. You know, when you're living with people that are similar ages to you, it's natural to fall out. Obviously, when you live at home with your family, your parents, your carers, you will fall out. You're not gonna get on 99.9% of the time. But however, you do get along, and you know, it's no different. We all kind of fall out with one another, but overall, you get along, and they're like your sisters in a way. So yes, we did get on. What happens at meal times? What food and what time? So at meal times it was very different in each placement. First placement you cooked with a staff member when it was just your time to eat. The second placement I was in, we used to have again a 7-day spread that we'd fill out on a Sunday evening of what we wanted across the week. Then this would be provided through the food shop that all residents did on a Monday with staff. Me personally, I was vegetarian, so my menu was always a little bit different to the other residents, but we always try to incorporate my dinner with their dinner. So say like if they were having roast chicken, I just have corn chicken. What times would just depend on like, you know, normal household. There wasn't really any strict kind of, oh, this is when you eat here, here and here. Whenever. Obviously the kitchen, we were free to go and get whatever food we wanted, get a drink whenever you want. What was really nice about the second placement is the staff ate with us, so the home provided enough money to cater for the staff's food into our food as well. So all the residents, including myself and the staff, were able to eat, cook and everything together, which was really nice. And like I said, the foods just depend on like what's been chosen, but it is really difficult if you suddenly don't want that halfway through the week when the food shop's already been done on Monday. So yeah, you kind of have to be a bit adapted, and you need to make sure that's what you want. Do you get a choice about who foster you use? Again, I was not in the fostering system, so I never really experienced if there was a choice. And when I asked a few of my friends, they said no, they didn't really feel they had a choice, and they didn't really feel like they had a voice in the fostering system, and they found it a really different experience to me just being in residential placements. What's contact like with your biological family, and are you allowed to see them? For me, yes, I was. I was allowed to keep in contact with my family because the agreement with social care and my family was that it was agreed for me to be placed under the local authority through my guardian, which was my dad. My dad decided that the best thing for me was to be handed over, that's a really difficult word to say, on a Section 20. The Section 20 allows the guardian, which was my dad, and social care to work together. So normally you can kind of describe it as, you know, when like a mother and father separate, normally both parents get responsibility of the child. For me, it was my dad and it was social care. They both had equal responsibility and they worked together to form what was best for me. For example, if I wanted to go to a concert with my friends, I'd have to ask my dad, get his approval, and I'd have to ask social care. If I both got their approval, I could go. If one of them said no, I couldn't go. That's how it worked. Yes, I did get to see them, and yes, my dad did come up and see me as well. What happens on birthdays and Christmas? So in one of my long-term placements, what happens for your birthday and Christmas is the home is given an allowance that they can spend for you for your birthday and for Christmas. This includes the staff basically going out and getting you presents provided by the local authority to cater for your birthday. For me, Christmas was so special because me and the resident was able to place the Christmas tree up in the window, and when I woke up in the morning I had a little stocking attached to my bed, and it was so sweet. The staff made it so lovely, and it's a Christmas I will never ever forget. Are you allowed to go out by yourself? Me personally, no, I wasn't. I know a few of the other residents in the home could. This wasn't like an all day thing. Like if you were at school, then obviously you can be out by yourself because you were at school. When I was at school, I did have a one-to-one for a little while, and then when I was more confident in the school and the surrounding with the people, I then proceeded on to school myself. The other residents could go for a walk for 15 minutes or like go out for the afternoon and see a friend. Me personally, I didn't really do that because I didn't know the area, and there were just so many other factors that I didn't go out by myself. But in a sense, some people can. Can you have snacks in your room? Technically no, but I did anyway. I had a little stash down the side of one of my cabinets. All the staff knew it was there, but I think it was more higher up. They didn't like you to have food in your room purely for the basis of, you know, if it gets messy. But I do remember one time a staff member brought me toast and a cup of tea in bed, and they were like, don't expect this every day. And I was just like, I'm savouring this moment. Yes, I did have a secret stash of chocolate down my cabinet. Do you have your own money for things you want to buy? So we are given allowance, which I think follows on to a question later on where it's like, do you get an allowance? So in a sense of, we got given pocket money, which I think was £10 a week. We got given a clothing allowance, which was £50, and toiletry money, which was £25 every 2 weeks. That one I can't really remember because it's just, there were so many figures. But yeah, so clothing was monthly, pocket money was weekly, and toiletries was every 2 weeks. So from that, the staff kept hold of this money, and when we requested to use it, we could, and then we'll just bring back the receipt. Also gave you the opportunity, so if you didn't use it 1 month, you could roll it over to the next. So say if I didn't use my 50 in March, That would then get rolled over to April, and then I would have £100 to spend on clothes only. Are you allowed TVs in your room? All placements I was in, I did have a TV in my room. It was just a little TV and it had Freeview and it had a DVD player. Yes, in a sense, I did have a TV in my room, but I rarely used it, to be honest. I always used to go into the living room and watch TV with the residents. The last question is why they attract clowns. This is a really strange question, but I feel like I need to answer it. So back in 2016, there was a massive clown breakout where people were dressing up as clowns and just scaring people. And this always makes me laugh because our home was basically in the middle of nowhere and it was an old care home, so it was quite big. One night, me and a staff member went into the kitchen, we turned the light on, and behind the window of the kitchen there was a clown. We literally jumped out of our skin. We were so scared, and then it went away and we were just like, what did we just see? A story about why do they attract clowns, because I thought, you know what, I'm in the middle of nowhere, I'm not going to see any clowns around here, I'm not going to be scared. Wrong. But yes, quick funny story time. That has answered some of your questions about your assumptions about care children, looked after children, young people within the local authority. I'll see you soon. Bye.